They used to call me the golden boy. To my face, anyway. Behind my back, I was the lucky one, the show-off, the one who got everything handed to him, even though I worked harder than anyone else in the room. My name is Ethan Carter, and for the past 10 years, I was the CEO of Carter Systems, Inc., a cybersecurity company based in Austin, Texas. My grandfather, Henry Carter, built it from scratch after coming home from World War II with little more than grit, vision, and a beat-up typewriter. I made it my life's mission to protect what he created. I took the company public, secured government contracts, built a team that revolutionized threat detection. Under my leadership, we grew into a $900 million powerhouse. But none of that mattered to my family. To them, I was just the guy with the big office and the bigger bank account. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, I sat through the same toxic performance. Fake smiles, awkward hugs, backhanded compliments. Must be nice flying in on your private jet, Ethan. Some of us have to work for a living. Hey, got a second to look over my pitch deck? They wanted what I had, but didn't want to work for it. Madison, my cousin, was the worst. She'd launched and crashed 3 tech startups in 4 years. Every holiday, she came armed with a new big idea, hoping I'd bankroll her next disaster. Then there was Uncle Tom, our family's resident lawyer/ambulance chaser. He always dropped casual hints about joining Carter Systems as in-house counsel, though he hadn't seen the inside of a courtroom in a decade. And of course, Lily. Fresh out of college with a marketing degree and a LinkedIn bio that made her sound like the next Sheryl Sandberg. She believed she deserved a management position in my company, never mind that she couldn't even spell cybersecurity. The only person who truly saw me, who knew me, was Grandpa Henry. He didn't care about my title. He saw the kid who used to build computers from spare parts with him in the garage. "Watch the quiet ones, Ethan," he always said. "They're either your fiercest protectors or your deadliest enemies." I never really understood what he meant until everything fell apart. 3 months ago, someone leaked top-secret federal security contract drafts to one of our biggest competitors. Panic swept through the boardroom. An emergency meeting was called, and although no one said it directly, all eyes turned to me. It didn't matter that I had the most to lose. It didn't matter that I had personally overseen the document's encryption protocols. The optics were bad. Headlines were worse. Cybersecurity titan Carter resigns amid espionage allegations. Within 24 hours, I was asked to temporarily step down as CEO. No charges were filed. No proof was offered. But public perception is a cruel judge, and the board wasn't willing to take a hit on our stock price. But the real knife in the heart? The texts from my own blood, Madison. Guess being the genius CEO didn't work out, huh? Awkward. Tom, if you need legal help, I offer family discounts. Lily, maybe Carter Systems needs younger leadership. Just saying. Even my mom, who'd always been quiet, said during a phone call, "Maybe this is the universe humbling you, Ethan." I stopped answering my phone after that. I stayed quiet, isolated, humiliated, and then, 2 weeks later, Grandpa Henry passed away. The funeral was cold. People cried, sure, but most came out of obligation or for show. I watched as my family whispered, huddled in fake mourning. "Betty cut Ethan out of the will. Probably left the company shares to Madison. Golden boy turned bronze real fast." I stood by Grandpa's casket alone, not because I was ashamed, but because I could see them clearly now. I could finally see the truth in his words. Watch the quiet ones. That morning, hours before the Carter family Christmas dinner, I got a call. It was Mr. Blake, the family's longtime attorney. "Ethan," he said, voice steady, "your grandfather left a sealed addendum to his will, handwritten, locked away in my safe." "What's in it?" I asked. "I'm not at liberty to say, but I'll tell you this. His instructions were very clear. You are to be at dinner tonight at 8 p.m. sharp. Say nothing until I arrive." Say nothing? Not a word. So here I am, sitting at the far end of the Carter Mansion's grand dining table, the same table where I used to sit at the head. Now that seat belongs to Madison, who called dibs the moment Grandpa's body was in the ground. The room is decked out like a winter catalog, crystal chandeliers, a 12-foot pine tree dusted with fake snow. Holiday jazz hums in the background, and around me, the family sharks circle, smiling, sipping wine, whispering. Madison raises her glass. "Ethan, darling. How's the job search? I hear Chick-fil-A has an opening." Laughter explodes across the table. I stab at my roast duck silently. Tom adds, "Surely someone wants to hire the former CEO of Carter Systems, unless espionage is a turnoff on resumes these days." Even Mom joins in. "I guess no one's perfect after all." Lily sees her moment. "I've been talking to the board, They're thinking of bringing in someone younger, someone with fresh ideas, like me." The room hums with smug delight. I glance at my watch. 7:55 p.m. 5 more minutes. "What's wrong, Ethan?" Madison mocks. "Cat got your tongue?" I look around the table, really looking this time. Every smirk, every sip of wine, every pair of eyes sparkling with glee at my downfall. Watch the quiet ones. Finally, I speak. "I'm just waiting." Tom snorts. "Waiting for what? A miracle?" The doorbell rings. 8:00 p.m. Sharp. I allow myself the smallest smile. "No, not a miracle, just justice." 8:00 p.m. Right on cue, the front doorbell echoed through the Carter mansion with the precision of a courtroom gavel. The room stilled. Forks paused mid-air. Wine glasses froze. Conversations trailed off into awkward silence. The butler stepped lightly into the dining room and cleared his throat. "Mr. Blake has arrived. He says it's urgent." Madison rolled her eyes so hard it was a miracle they didn't fall out of her skull. "What's so urgent?" "The reading's tomorrow. Can someone tell him to come back then?" Tom leaned back in his chair, already irritated. "Lawyers and their drama. Probably forgot a signature or something." But before anyone else could speak, Ethan lifted his glass of water and said, calmly, "He's right on time." The family turned toward him, confused. "Grandpa left instructions for this moment, tonight, at 8 p.m. sharp." Lily snorted into her napkin. "What? Like some secret agents coming in with a briefcase?" Right then, Mr. Blake appeared in his doorway. He wasn't smiling. The seasoned attorney's normally warm presence was replaced with a no-nonsense, stone-faced expression. He carried a weathered leather briefcase in one hand and an iPad in the other. "I apologize for interrupting dinner," he said, voice firm and commanding. "But Henry Carter gave me very specific instructions regarding this evening. This will not wait." He walked over to the table and placed the iPad in the center like it was a ticking time bomb. 3 months ago, just days before his passing, Henry recorded a video message, and he left a sealed addendum to his will. I was instructed to share both tonight. The room rippled with unease. Tom's jaw twitched. Madison stared daggers at the briefcase. Lily crossed her arms like a petulant teenager. "A video?" Madison scoffed. "This better not be another one of his sentimental monologues. I don't have time for—" But Mr. Blake ignored her. He tapped the screen. The room dimmed as the iPad came to life. And then, there he was, Grandpa Henry, older, weary, but sharp-eyed and poised, seated in his office in that old leather chair Ethan remembered so well. Behind him, the familiar painting of the Wodibiwoo fighter jet he flew hung on the wall. He looked into the camera and spoke. "If you're watching this, it's Christmas dinner, 3 months after I've passed. And you're probably enjoying Ethan's apparent fall from grace." He paused, and you could feel the room go completely still. "I know this family. I know how some of you think. So I decided, long before my final days, to run one last experiment. A test of character, of loyalty, of truth." Madison's lips parted slightly. "You see," Grandpa continued, "Ethan didn't fall. He didn't get fired. Every bit of this so-called scandal was orchestrated by me and him." Gasps erupted. Forks clattered onto plates. Lily looked physically ill. "That's right. Every board vote, every headline, every leak, all planned. We wanted to see how you'd react when you thought he lost everything." Tom jumped up, visibly shaken. This This can't be legal. Mr. Blake didn't flinch. It's more legal than anything you've filed in the last decade, Tom. Back on screen, Grandpa Henry leaned forward. Let's begin with you, Madison. Madison's wine glass froze midair. You've been sneaking into Ethan's office during Sunday brunches, photographing documents you believed were confidential, selling them to our competitors for millions. The iPad screen split into two. One side still showed Grandpa speaking. The other, grainy black and white surveillance footage of Madison in Ethan's office, snapping pictures with her phone. These documents were fake, Grandpa explained, deliberately placed. Every contract, every number, every signature, none of them real. And Madison shot to her feet. That's a lie! Those were real documents! Ethan finally spoke, cool and clear. You weren't even subtle, Madison. We knew from the first week. Grandpa's voice cut in again. Oh, and the FBI's watching this recording, too. They've been briefed on your offshore accounts. The ones not so offshore after all. Madison's knees buckled. She sat down slowly, stunned, eyes wide with dread. Now, Grandpa's voice shifted. Tom. Uncle Tom flinched like someone had slapped him. You've been embezzling client trust funds through fake shell accounts. Thought nobody would notice, huh? Mr. Blake added. An audit has confirmed everything. You'll be hearing from the state bar next week. Lily whispered, Oh my God. But she wasn't safe either. Lily, Grandpa said, voice more disappointed than angry. The executive resume you sent to the board, filled with false titles, fake job experience, and references that were, in fact, actors from Fiverr? Lily burst into tears. You think branding yourself a strategic innovation officer makes you qualified to lead Carter Systems? She didn't answer. No one did. The silence was thick with shame. Ethan looked around at the table, at their sunken faces, their melting egos, their trembling hands. This is why I stayed silent, he said, to see who'd reveal their true selves. And wow, you really didn't hold back. The screen returned to Grandpa Henry one last time. You failed the test, every one of you, except Ethan. My only regret is that I had to hurt him for this plan to work, but it was the only way. He paused, eyes glinting. And to Ethan, thank you for your patience. For your silence. You did everything I asked, even when they spit on your name. Now, Mr. Blake, please open the envelope. Mr. Blake took a deep breath and reached into his briefcase. The room was deadly still. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, holding up a sealed white envelope, wax-stamped with Henry Carter's initials, it's time to read the will's addendum. Mr. Blake broke the wax seal slowly, carefully, as if he were defusing a bomb. The only sound in the room was the distant crackle of the fireplace. Everyone leaned in. This is the official addendum to Henry Carter's last will and testament, he announced, scanning the page. Ethan remained still, arms crossed, while his family stared ahead, some in denial, some in dread. Let me begin by reading Henry's written statement. He adjusted his glasses, cleared his throat, and began. To my family. By the time you hear these words, you will have already watched the video and, hopefully, faced yourselves in the mirror. If not, this letter will do it for you. Madison was biting her thumbnail now. Her eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal. Madison Carter, you are hereby disinherited. Your shares in Carter Systems are voided effective immediately. The evidence of your actions has been turned over to federal authorities. She choked on a sob. You can't be serious. You can't do this. Mr. Blake didn't look up. Tom Carter, also disinherited. All financial disbursements previously granted under Clause 11B are rescinded. Additionally, your law license is under investigation for misappropriation of funds. I warned you more than once. You chose your path. Uncle Tom gripped the edge of the table, face pale and slick with sweat. This isn't happening. This is insane. Lily Carter, stripped of voting rights and company access. All fraudulent representations have been logged and verified. You may be young, Lily, but dishonesty has no age limit. Lily let out a small cry and buried her face in her hands. Mr. Blake paused. The family was unraveling. The once powerful Carter clan now sat like a line of scolded children, each one exposed and undone. As for the company leadership, Mr. Blake continued, voice firmer. Henry Carter confirms that Ethan Carter never ceased to be the CEO of Carter Systems. The resignation was entirely strategic, part of a controlled sting operation conducted with Henry's full support. Ethan remained silent, his expression unreadable. Ethan Carter is reinstated with full authority. In addition, he is awarded controlling interest in the company, along with Henry Carter's entire personal estate, valued at $1.3 billion. A heavy gasp filled the room, followed by stunned silence. "This can't be real," Madison whispered. "Tell me this is some elaborate prank." "There's more," Mr. Blake said, pulling out a second document. Henry Carter also issued posthumous instructions regarding this evening. He turned to the butler. "Please bring in the security team." 3 uniformed security guards entered the room with silent, efficient steps. They stood at the doorway, awaiting further instruction. "Per Henry's request," Blake announced, "Madison Carter, Tom Carter, and Lily Carter are to be escorted from the property immediately and are prohibited from entering any Carter-owned facility or estate indefinitely." Madison stood up, shaking. "You can't do this! We're family!" Ethan rose slowly from his chair, locking eyes with her. "Family doesn't sell you out. Family doesn't profit off your downfall. Family doesn't humiliate you and drink wine over your misery." His tone was calm, final. "Grandpa taught me that. I hope someday you understand it too." Tom tried to argue. "We built this company. No," Ethan interrupted. "You tore it apart. I just happened to be holding the blueprint when it collapsed." One by one, they were escorted out. Madison protested the whole way down the hallway, shouting things like, "This isn't over." "You're gonna regret this!" Tom went silently, eyes glazed. Lily sobbed quietly as she passed Ethan. "Please," she whispered. "I didn't know what they were doing." He didn't answer. Silence fell again as the doors closed behind them. The only ones remaining at the table were Ethan, his mother, Mr. Blake, and a few cousins too shocked to speak. His mother looked like she'd aged 5 years in 5 minutes. She reached for his hand across the table. "Ethan, I didn't know. I didn't believe you. I thought maybe it was true." Ethan looked at her, his eyes softening. But then he pulled his hand away. "You didn't have to believe me. You just had to stand by me." She nodded slowly, tears forming. "I'm so sorry." "We'll talk," Ethan said quietly. "But not tonight." Mr. Blake cleared his throat. "With that, the reading is complete. If there are no objections—" No one spoke. He nodded and packed the documents away, then walked to Ethan's side. "You did what most people couldn't, Ethan. You sacrificed your name to reveal the truth. Henry trusted you for a reason." "Thank you," Ethan replied, "but I'm not sure if I feel triumphant or just exhausted." Mr. Blake smiled faintly. "Justice tends to come with a hangover." "Tatapi." As the staff cleared the plates and extinguished the candles, Ethan lingered at the table, staring at the now empty seat where Grandpa Henry used to sit. His voice echoed in Ethan's mind. "Sometimes you have to lose everything to find out who's really standing with you. And sometimes the quiet ones are the ones saving you." That night, Ethan stood on the balcony overlooking the dark Texas hills. The air was cool, crisp, clean, like everything had been reset. His phone buzzed in his pocket, texts from CEOs, journalists, and former board members congratulating him. But he didn't answer any of them. He just stood in silence, looking up at the stars. "We did it, Grandpa," he whispered. "We really did it." The dining room was silent again, but this time the silence wasn't awkward or cruel. It was reverent, heavy. Ethan stood by the fireplace, one hand resting on the mantel, eyes on the framed photo of Grandpa Henry, smiling in his favorite flannel, holding a mug that said, "World's Most Stubborn Man." Across the room, Mr. Blake carefully placed the now opened addendum back in his leather case, but then pulled out another sealed envelope. "There's one more piece," he said quietly. "Your grandfather's final directive, the official confirmation of his legacy." He held the letter up for everyone to see. This isn't a legal formality. It's personal. And Ethan, this one's addressed to you. Ethan hesitated before stepping forward. He reached for the envelope, fingertips brushing across the seal, deep red wax with the Carter family crest pressed perfectly in the center. It smelled faintly of old parchment and cedar, like Grandpa's office. He broke the seal and unfolded the thick, cream-colored stationery. Mr. Blake took a respectful step back, and Ethan began to read aloud. Ethan, my boy, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And if Blake did his job right, you've just endured the most awkward family dinner of your life. Congratulations. Now let me be clear. What I did wasn't about vengeance, it was about vision. I had to know, without a shadow of doubt, who I could trust to carry this legacy forward. And more than that, I had to give you the chance to see your family for who they truly are. Painful, wasn't it? Ethan paused. His throat tightened. Everyone in the room was listening now, frozen in place. When your parents died, I promised myself I'd raise you with character, not just comfort. And Lord knows I didn't get everything right. But the man you are now, that's all you, son. Carter Systems was never about firewalls and code. It was about building something that would outlive us. Integrity, honor, guts, which brings me to the rest. Ethan turned the page. Effective immediately, you are sole heir to my estate, including all remaining shares in Carter Systems, Inc., the Carter Ranch and all 5 properties across Texas, my private accounts, investment portfolios, and that damn old Mustang you always begged me to sell, which I never did. But more importantly, you are now the moral compass of this family. They'll come crawling, begging, crying, some with real remorse, others with rehearsed guilt. Your job isn't to punish them, it's to lead, but that doesn't mean letting them back in. Some doors are meant to stay closed. A hushed gasp came from the corner. Ethan didn't look up. As for Madison, Tom, and Lily, I have no regrets about disinheriting them. Not out of spite, but because they failed the most basic test: loyalty. He folded the letter slowly, deliberately, and tucked it back into the envelope. Mr. Blake stepped forward again. That concludes Henry Carter's final testament. He turned to the butler and gave a subtle nod. The staff, previously hiding in the hallway, began clearing the table, careful, quiet, almost ritualistic in their movement. One last instruction, Mr. Blake added. Henry asked that a bottle of his favorite whiskey be opened tonight. For Ethan only. He handed Ethan a small wooden box. Inside, a bottle of 1978 Macallan, sealed and untouched. Ethan smiled faintly. He saved the good stuff for last. They gathered in the den, now only a handful of remaining relatives, a few cousins too distant to be involved in the drama, an aunt who had always stayed neutral, and his mother, still sitting, hands folded, unsure if she belonged. Ethan poured a single glass of whiskey and sat in Grandpa's old armchair. The leather creaked beneath him, familiar, warm. The room was dim, the fire flickering. I know most of you didn't see this coming, Ethan said calmly, voice steady. Truth is, neither did I. He took a sip. 3 months ago, I thought I'd lost everything. My name, my legacy, even my dignity. But Grandpa knew what he was doing. He looked at his mother. She looked down. When he told me the plan, to stage my downfall, to watch them reveal themselves, I said no. At first, I didn't think I could handle it. But then I realized he wasn't testing me. He was protecting this company, the legacy, me. A pause. He let the weight of the moment land. So here we are. The dust has settled. The masks are off. I'm not going to pretend this didn't hurt. It did. It still does. But pain has a funny way of sharpening clarity. His mother finally stood up. Ethan, she said, voice trembling, I know I should have stood by you. I didn't. I failed you. I didn't want to believe the worst in your cousins. I didn't want to believe family could do that. He looked at her for a long time, then nodded. I know, Mom, and I get it. But now we don't have to guess anymore, do we? She blinked back tears. Will you forgive me? He took a deep breath, then looked down at the glass in his hand. Someday. Just not today. She nodded, understanding, and sat back down without another word. Outside, snow had started to fall, a rare December flurry for Texas. It settled gently on the windowsill, softening the night. Ethan sat in silence, staring at the embers in the fireplace. In his lap sat the letter, the words still pulsing in his chest like an echo. Some doors are meant to stay closed, he whispered quietly, almost to himself, and some legacies are worth burning everything down to protect. The next morning, sunlight broke through the frosted windows of the Carter estate, casting long golden streaks across the hardwood floors. Ethan stood alone in Grandpa's study, dressed in a crisp gray button-down, sleeves rolled, coffee in hand. The old leather chair behind the desk still creaked the same way. The smell of cedar, ink, and dust lingered, just like Grandpa Henry had never left. Framed photographs lined the shelves, a black and white wedding photo, Henry in uniform beside a vintage fighter jet, a young Ethan at a science fair holding up a clunky homemade computer. The past wasn't gone. It was just quieter now. Ethan turned on his phone. For the first time in 3 months, it wasn't blowing up with tabloid gossip or thinly veiled taunts. Instead, it buzzed with a new kind of energy. A message from a senator. Impressive move. We need minds like yours in policy-making circles. A VC firm. Let's talk. You've got our attention. A cybersecurity journal. Requesting an exclusive interview on the sting operation. And most surprisingly, the Carter Systems Board. Welcome back, Mr. Carter. Full support. The company is yours to lead again. Ethan didn't smile. Not yet. By noon, the media had caught wind of the truth. Carter's CEO orchestrated brilliant sting operation to expose corporate espionage. Forbes. He let the world think he failed, then took it all back. Business Insider. Family betrayal, FBI surveillance, and $1 billion redemption. The Wall Street Journal. Even the most cynical journalists admitted, Ethan Carter had pulled off one of the boldest, most elegant corporate turnarounds of the decade. Meanwhile, across the city, the fallout began. Madison, Tom, and Lily were arrested on charges ranging from insider trading to fraud and embezzlement. Their mugshots appeared side by side on cable news with the caption, "The Carter Conspirators." Madison's multiple shell accounts were frozen. Tom's law license was suspended. Lily's online executive brand vanished overnight, her website replaced by a notice. This domain has been seized by the Department of Justice. Ethan watched the footage once, then turned the TV off. Let the truth speak for itself, he murmured. Later that week, Ethan returned to Carter Systems HQ for the first time since the staged resignation. As he stepped out of the elevator onto the executive floor, employees stood and clapped, quietly at first, then louder. Applause filled the hall like a wave of relief. Michelle, his longtime executive assistant, met him at the door. "Welcome home, boss," she said, misty-eyed. He chuckled. "Remind me not to ever do something like that again." "Please don't," she whispered. "We needed you." Ethan walked past rows of glass-walled offices, whiteboards filled with code, teams huddled over servers. It was still his company, always had been. Now it was time to lead it again, but this time with his eyes even wider open. The first thing he did? He changed the access credentials for every system. Then he eliminated 5 strategic consultant roles, each of which had been created by Lily. Then he reinstated 2 employees who had been let go during the transition period. They had spoken out in his defense, quietly, but they had. The quiet ones, he whispered to himself, remembering Grandpa's words. That Friday, Ethan hosted a private memorial at the Carter Ranch. Just family, just real family. His aunt, a few distant cousins, some old friends of Grandpa's from the war. His mother was there too. She didn't speak much, but she sat beside him holding his hand, not asking for forgiveness, just showing up. "I don't know if I can fix it," she said, voice breaking. "But I'm here." Ethan nodded. Sometimes being here is enough. After everyone left, he walked out to the barn. There it was, Grandpa's Mustang, still dusty, still stubborn, still purring like a lion when he turned the ignition. Ethan drove it out across the hills behind the property. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the land Grandpa had poured decades into, acres of legacy. He stopped at the top of a ridge where Grandpa used to take him as a kid. "You always said life would test me," Ethan whispered to the wind. "Well, I passed." He took out Grandpa's letter again, the one he had folded and tucked into his coat pocket. He read the last line one more time. "Your job isn't to punish them, it's to lead. But that doesn't mean letting them back in. Some doors are meant to stay closed." Ethan lit a match and set the corner of the letter aflame, watched it burn piece by piece until the wind took the ashes. Weeks later, Ethan stood at the front of a packed auditorium delivering the keynote at a cybersecurity conference. He didn't talk about betrayal or scandal or revenge. He talked about resilience, trust, and the importance of character in leadership. "Technology can protect your data," he said, "but only people can protect your legacy." The crowd rose in applause. That night, alone in his office, he poured a glass of whiskey, Grandpa's bottle, and raised it to the photograph on the wall. "To the quiet ones," and smiled. Because sometimes the quiet ones aren't just protecting you. They're writing your comeback. And sometimes the best revenge is not revenge at all. It's building something so strong that no one can ever tear it down again.